The Last of Us is a name that at this point transcends video games. With the vast success of both the games and show, it's a household name, and something people who don't even play games know about, even without ever engaging with the media. Prior to this year, however, I'd never played the games. I'd always been watching Last of Us from afar, that being, watching YouTubers review or play the games and seeing their thoughts. So of course, I had both games spoiled for me without ever playing them for myself. I had known all the major events, but never the specific details of the stories. But when looking for something to play earlier this year, my friend recommended I play The Last of Us Part 1, as he had just finished it and said it was worth it. So I bought it and gave it a try. And I really enjoyed it. The writing, the gameplay, the story, all just struck a chord with me. I bought the newest version of Part 1, which is a remake in the new engine, and of course it just looks like real life, although it is crazy this game was re-released this many times, but whatever, I'm not complaining. So after playing the masterpiece that is Part 1, what do you think I did next? The game was already spoiled for me, but after seeing how amazing the first game was, I had to see where the story went next for myself. So right after finishing the first game, I went right into playing. Now some of you will probably hate to hear me say this, but I actually really loved this game. Once again, the writing, gameplay, and story had me excited to see what would happen next, and by the end, I finally understood why the series gets so much praise. However, there was always another thing at the back of my mind throughout the entire playthrough. Why did this game get so much hate when it came out? As mentioned before, I knew how major events played out and how it ended, but that didn't ruin my experience at all. It was playing through all the small details and events that made me fully understand the plot. I knew Joel was going to get put in a pack before buying the game, and I also knew Ellie was going to let Abby live in the end, and yet I still loved playing through it. So what caused all the outrage when this game came out? Well, after some thorough research and analysis from some of the smartest individuals on this platform, I've come to the final conclusion that people are in fact stupid as fuck. Now I can understand not liking this game's gameplay or pacing or characters, but those were never the real problems people had with this game. From the start, as soon as fans found out Joel dies, they were ready to label it as garbage. They were ready to hate Abby before even touching the game, even though that's the point, and as you play as her more, you start to understand both sides and see her perspective. Unfortunately, patience isn't an attribute of brain-rotted fans and YouTubers, so getting to the point of the game when you make that realization wasn't even noticed by them. In reality, you had people with the worst takes on the planet calling this game woke garbage and SJW propaganda, and looking back on it with a new lens, you can see just how stupid all of it looks. I can understand people thinking there's a hidden political message here. I don't see one after playing it for myself, but I do know most of the people who hate on this game never actually played it in its entirety, so they wouldn't know either. It seems more like fans were so salty and pissy that Naughty Dog killed off Joel that they couldn't give this game a fair chance. In fact, nearly the entire Last of Us 2 subreddit, to this day, is still full of people whining and complaining that Joel died 4 years later. Like, let it go, bro, it's over. The fictional character that you played as years ago died. Boo-hoo.
It wasn't my bitch. Bitch, shut the fuck up in 2024.
And I like Joel as much as the next guy, but after the way Part 1 ended, was this not to be expected? He took a bunch of innocent lives for Ellie and eventually his time ran out. I can understand not liking how disrespectful his death was with the golf club, or some thinking Joel would have never put himself in this situation, but nonetheless his death made sense within the narrative. And if you've played the games, you know that the series doesn't have happy endings for really any of its characters. Joel was not a good person in the events leading to Part 1. The story makes that clear. It was only after taking an Ellie that he got his humanity back while still making enemies along the way. We hear in dialogue how awful he treated Tommy after the apocalypse started, and how they did morally questionable things to survive. I feel like Joel's death was only a matter of time in the series, and Part 2 just made it the inciting incident. I too was unfortunately brainwashed into thinking this game was bad at launch. Most YouTubers at the time were saying how bad it was and how the story didn't make sense, so naturally, like most who didn't play the game, I assumed it was just ass and that was that. But after playing for myself now, I see the game as much more than anything the hate bandwagon was spewing. I shouldn't have let those videos tell me what to think of the game, but Donkey's review at the time was on point even at launch, when the masses were trying to burn this game at the stake. He made some great videos back then on Part 2 and delved into how stupid most of the takes were at the time. This game deserved way better, and many didn't even give it a chance because their favorite YouTuber made it fun to hate on it. I really can't reinstate enough how the idea of woke politics and anti-SJW YouTubers changed the narrative of this game. These videos are actually hilarious to rewatch because the things they're saying are just flat out wrong. You had YouTubers like Synthetic Man with some of the worst takes on the platform, claiming to the world that Abby was a transgender, which is just not true, and also saying Part 2 ruins the first game entirely.
If you're bothered by the idea of a, trans person in an apocalypse that's been going on for 20 years, like, see people are saying that it's like male to female transition versus a trans female, if you will. So the character in question being, a roided out monster, I suppose makes more sense. But I mean, there's so many questions. There's so many questions that they're not going to answer in the game. You're just going to, like, you know, just accept the fact this is a trans person in an apocalypse that's been going on for, actually probably like close to 30.
Then he goes on to explain that it's all liberal SJW woke propaganda and you shouldn't buy it. And this was all before the game officially came out. It was creators like these that would milk the hate for this game and turn it into their own profit. Fuck genuine criticism or well thought out reviews. Let's hate on this piece of media, call it woke, and then get hundreds of thousands of views and support from people who lack the ability to critically think for themselves. And that's a problem within all circles of media, not just video games, but that's a tangent for another time. The Last of Us Part 2 is a cautionary tale that the gaming community needs to remember. We can't allow content creators to tell us what to think and believe. It's also important to hear multiple perspectives and varied opinions on things before arriving to conclusions. If you stayed on the space back in 2020 and consumed all these videos saying the same things about the game, you would believe it too, without ever playing it for yourself. I'm glad I gave it the opportunity, as I found a game I really enjoyed. And the new no return mode has been a lot of fun as well. So give this game a chance if you haven't already, and if you don't like it, that's okay. But it's important to try things out for yourself and not let others tell you what to think. I hope you enjoyed my silly little video, and I hope to make some more of these soon. Later for now.